Hi TD 155 online students. Today I'm going to give you a brief overview of the philosophy statement and resume assignment. You'll have a rough draft due for that. Let's see here. So we're starting that this week, and you'll read the philosophy packet and the Whitley, and then you have until next week, the 17th, to upload your rough draft and resume. So you'll submit it by Monday. You'll get feedback from peers by Wednesday, and then the final assignment will be due next Friday. So you've got 2 weeks, not quite 2 weeks, but a week from this Friday to complete the assignment. All right, so first let's go into our class site. If you click on content, it will take you down, and you want to come down until you find the handouts, and that will list the philosophy packet. The philosophy packet is going to have a bunch of things that you can use. First, it's going to walk you through just general suggestions for your philosophy statement, 4 categories that you might want to write about, and then there's actually 4 examples of philosophy statements that current teachers have written, so you can go through those. I'm just going to walk you through it really quick. I still expect you to read this, but just to clarify a few things. One, why do we have philosophy statements? Well, there's a number of pragmatic reasons. When you apply for a teaching job, they're going to ask for one. They want to see your philosophy of teaching statement. Similarly, when you're hired as a teacher, you'll use that same philosophy statement, which will be revised from time to time, as part of your teaching portfolio. So when you go up for promotion or for tenure, you'll submit your philosophy to your colleagues there at whatever school you're teaching at. So this is a really important document. It's a document that will follow you throughout your teaching career. It will change with time. You'll probably want to continue to update it semi-regularly. I work on mine every year around the holiday season. And I do that for 2 reasons. One, because I want to have a current philosophy statement, but 2, writing a philosophy of teaching statement is a very good reflective activity. It will force you to think about what you're doing in your teaching and if you're being intentional about that or not. So writing a philosophy statement can be a really good exercise. So I'm requiring you to at least get a draft of a philosophy statement out this semester. Now, obviously, you don't have a lot of teaching experience, so this is going to change significantly over the next several years. But I want you to start thinking about the ideas and what you want on it now. So a few general formats. You can format it a few general tips. Format it any way you want. Right now, it'll probably just be a page. And if it's not even quite a page of single-space type, that's fine. It's very informal. You're going to say I and me throughout it. The technical terms thing here, we have academic language that we use, especially within disciplines. And as most of you are generalists as elementary school teachers, you're probably pretty good at speaking in a way that normal people understand what you're saying. That might be somewhat more difficult if you're a science teacher and you're used to certain scientific terms that other scientists understand but normal people don't. So just my caution here, make sure that if you're using specialized language, if you're using a term, even something as simple as like critical thinking, you might want to clarify that in your philosophy statement, because critical might mean that it's complicated or complex thinking, or it might have to do with another definition of the term critical, and might have to do with equity, making sure that everyone is treated fairly, and that's what they mean by critical. So you'll want to be careful with your terms there. You want to give people a sense of what your classroom is like, and this is the part that's going to be really tricky now, so don't worry about it too much. You're not going to use examples from your own classroom until you've had your own classroom, or at least some student teaching experience. You can own your philosophy. You can say, this is something I strongly believe in, and you'll see some of that in the examples written below. So 4 things to consider. What are your objectives as a teacher? How will you achieve your objectives? How will you measure student success? This is an area that most people shortchange. They don't really talk about assessment much. So if you want to be consistent with everyone else, don't worry about it. If you want yours to stand out, you might want to think about it a little bit. And then number 4, why are you a teacher? Most people lead with this and talk about why they enjoy teaching. So, and then you've got some examples below. Your assignment for right now is to put together a draft and submit that by next Monday in the Dropbox. Actually, I'll probably set up discussion forums. That way you can see one another's work. Your assignment next week will be to read a couple of your peers' rough drafts, give them some feedback on it, and then you'll have to the end of the week to revise your draft and create a second draft. So that will be that assignment. The other part of this assignment is to create a resume. And again, there's pragmatic and more philosophical reasons to have a resume. So if we go back to our handouts, you'll see that I've got a couple of resources here for resume. We've got a whole packet from Résumé writing from Career Services. Another one that has professional letters that we're not going to spend time with now. It's just an additional resource. And then the handout on resume writing for education majors. For now, I'm going to click on this Career Services packet. This is a large packet, and you don't need to spend time with the whole thing. But we want, again, simply a draft of your resume. This will help you prepare to go on the job market, and it's going to change as you gain experience in the classroom and add things to your resume. The reason I want you to be thinking about your resume now is because this is a good check-in point. If you have nothing on your resume, well, then you've got some work to do over the next few years. If you've got a really polished resume, then that's great. Let's think about what are the areas of your resume where you can add things that are going to help you land a job as a teacher. So they've got this resume checklist, some example resumes, and they go through all the different points, and so I'm not going to walk you through that right now. Some suggested headings, and then skill phrases and action verbs. Use those if you need to. What I'd like you to do this week or next week is simply look through some of these resumes. Pretend that you're a principal of a school. Which student are you going to hire based solely on their resumes? And you're going to want to think about a few different things. Some of your judgment towards these resumes will have to do with aesthetics. Some look better than others. Some have the right kinds of things in them, and others don't. Some of them emphasize different things. So typically you lead with your education because that's the most impressive thing you've done so far. If you haven't graduated yet, which you haven't, you put your anticipated graduate date here. You don't need to say it's anticipated. University of Wisconsin, River Falls has a hyphen but no space between Wisconsin and River Falls. You don't need to include your GPA. In fact, I wouldn't if it was lower than, I don't know, like a 3.5, but do whatever you're comfortable with. So you don't need to include that line if you don't want to. You will want to put your certifications and a minor if you have one. Then you go into your experience. Now, if you have a lot of teaching experience, you want to highlight that first because that's going to be what they care most about. But then you could get into volunteer stuff and other things. You don't need to worry about references because they'll typically ask for that separately. So this whole page that Madison has is not really necessary at this point. Let me go back to someone else's. Additional work experience. This guy was in sales. If you have a job like McDonald's or Target that's not directly related to teaching, you still want to include it. It's helpful to see the timeline, see that you've been working. That's going to work to your advantage. And summary of qualifications. Some people choose to put this at the very beginning. Keith here probably puts this here because he's a non-traditional teacher candidate. He worked in industry for a while as a salesman. So he wants to highlight some of those skills that he developed that transfer over to teaching. Usually pre-student teachers and student teachers don't want to list their qualifications first because it's not more impressive than their education and their teaching experience. And so this would go towards the end. But that's a decision that will be up to you. So you've got lots of options. Don't stress about this right now. Just get your ideas together, get your work history together, and you'll have a very rough draft of a resume. So you'll take those, you'll add them to the Dropbox. I'm still figuring out this Dropbox business. So I'll try to set up a new folder. Hopefully it will work this time. And you can add, oh no, scratch all that. I told you I was going to put it in the discussion groups. So I'll go ahead and set that up right now. And you'll be able to upload your rough draft of your philosophy statement and a rough draft of your resume for your work this week. All right, hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. And if I need to, I can make another short tutorial. All right, thanks.